back. It's now time for us to take a look at what we have on the viewpoint. But before then, how about I give you the traffic situation in our city here? Okay, let me start with the Nairobi. Good morning, Nairobians. If you're still in the house, let me take you through the traffic in the city. Okay, this is Mombasa. No, let me start with Nairobi. Thank you. Okay, so all the way from Wayakiwe, you still have a moment to drive to work. It's still moving pretty well. All the way from Quickmart to Wayakiwe, coming down to ABC Place, Westlands roundabout there, not so busy, unless there is the place of, when you come towards Consolata, also moving pretty fine. Past Villarosa Kempinski, the National Museum interchange there, moving pretty fine. Now, all these people who are using Thika Road, I don't know whether something can be done to heal the situation along Thika Road. It's always perennial. Now, all the way from Kenya Hotali Hotel is bumper to bumper, past Madari Mental Hospital there, moving in a snail pace, coming down to Muthaiga Square, right up to the Pangani interchange, also busy, busy, busy. That is also affected, that is Kiambu Road, starting all the way from around, not so much today, but Kiambu Road is busy as you come towards Muthaiga Golf offices, Muthaiga Police Station, also busy, joining Thika Road. That is a place to watch. Okay, and Mombasa Road, no, let me start with the Ngong Road first of all. If you're coming from Ngong Road, it's okay. If you're using Ngong Road, that is your position right now. It's a bit of some snarl because of the traffic situation as you move towards the joining Menelik Road, for example, if you're joining the Fideros, joining Ngong Road. But overall, Ngong Road is moving pretty well. How about if you're using Langata Road? Langata Road all the way from Onyonka, Langata Barracks, down to Wilson Airport, moving vizuri. You have a moment to drive to work as you join that Timor roundabout, and up towards Mbagathi Way, towards City Mortuary is also okay. What about if you're joining Uhuru Highway? It's only busy when you're just about the Aerodrome Road, coming to Bunyala roundabout, and ultimately Uhuru Highway coming into the CBD. That's where the problem is. But for those people who are using Mombasa Road, generally, it's moving very well. Outbound, inbound, Mombasa Road moving vizuri sana. That is the traffic situation in Nairobi. And finally, in Mombasa, nothing to report about apart from Nyali Road, which is about, some spots of snarl up there about, but so far so good. Coming to Kongoya Market, lights there, also okay. Past the new Nyali Bridge, also moving salama kabisa. Jambo Village coming down the other side of Makupa Bridge, I beg your pardon, to Sabasaba, into the CBD, moving very well. If you're coming towards the Lekoni Ferry Channel, it's a bit of some snarl up because you have to wait for the ferry to go the other side and come back. That's where the traffic snarl up is where. But basically, it moves. The rule there is, first of all, you have to queue, wait for the ferry to come, board, and go about your business. That's as far as traffic is concerned. I'll take you through the front page of our local newspapers right about now, but just to introduce my guest already in studio, I have Wilson Sossion, who is former SecGen of NAT, joining me now, and the current CAS. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, and good morning, our viewers.
Karibu sana. And Makali Mulu, Member of Parliament, Kitui West. They say, Wamukata Mwano.
Thank you, Oloo. Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana.
It's Kitui Central, not Kitui West.
Kitui Central, I beg your pardon. All right. Yeah. Let me take you through the front page of local dailies. Daily Nation, how school will change. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. How school will change. Team proposes to ease the burden on learners. There are a raft of changes being given by the presidential workforce, which was constituted to look into the issue of CBC and make some changes into the education system. And a task force appointed by President Ruto has recommended sweeping reforms cutting across all education levels, but largely addressing concerns about the competency-based curriculum that is replacing the nearly 4-decade-old 844 system. If implemented, the proposals will radically alter institutions of learning. We'll get into the details shortly. Riot Act, globetrotting, and unpunctual CSS upset Ruto. We also that yesterday at State House. Maandamano father to bury 2 sons killed by police in Kisumu. The ghost of Maandamano still coming back to haunt us a week or so later. KRA update system to net new heavy taxes. That is what's here. After the Court of Appeal lifted the ban on the Finance Act, Kenya Revenue Authority has reviewed iTax, the online tax system, to reflect the 2 new pay-as-you-earn rates of 32.5% for those earning above 500,000 shillings and 35% for the salaried pocketing more than 800,000 shillings per month. You can take a look at that on the Daily Nation. Gentlemen, finally, the Education Task Force has given its report, and from here, sweeping changes. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Sossion. What do you make of these changes before I get to the details?
I think this is one of the most well-done report with a competent team, with the workable recommendations. And remember, Kenya National Union of Teachers, well as at the helm, raised a lot of concerns about the manner in which CBC was being rolled out. And I think this Presidential Working Party has done a wonderful job.
Right.
This is implementation of item number 15 in the Education Charter, which the President signed with the stakeholders, that of engaging in robust consultations with the public to evaluate the curriculum at its 5th tier, as recommended by UNESCO. UNESCO recommends that all curriculum must be reviewed every 5 years. And while doing this, is cognizant of preserving our strong knowledge-based education system that we've mounted in this country, while again appreciating the skill-based education competencies of the 21st century and value-based education without affecting the progress of children. To me, it's a milestone, and I have seen in the report, I've not gotten the hard copy, but I've gone through the soft copy. There is an implementation matrix, and the President himself has said he is going to supervise the implementation of every bit of the provision of the report. And the report has sanitized many administrative challenges and bureaucracies in the ministry, in the education sector, conflict between TSC and the ministry. Now the TSC will take full charge of quality assurance. The quality assurance will be strengthened, because you cannot mount any education system without a strong quality assurance framework to quality assure the teacher management aspect, the retraining of teachers, 1 year retooling on CBC model of education before teaching. I think these are welcome changes. And then the reduction of the learning areas, it was too wide and excessive and unnecessary. And when you look at the consolidation of PP1 and lower primary, upper primary, and junior school, consolidated all as a comprehensive school within the current primary school, that speaks to access, equity, and quality, because household will be able to access education from the current existing primary school for at least up to grade 9. That makes education affordable and accessible. And then a major departure that was going to be a tragedy to run an education system that relies basically on formative evaluation and standardized tests. The reverting to 60% summative evaluation at grade 9, and 70% summative evaluation at grade 12, really protects the knowledge-based education system that we've had, because students will have to prepare for a final exam. There will be a final exam that will be marked
maybe
and
one line.
administered.
What would be your general evaluation on the entire report in terms of what the teachers are going to get and the students as well?
Now, I would summarize it this way, because I've touched key flagship areas that I think have been addressed, including even reduction of the learning areas. I would say this is a very progressive report. The only thing that we need to do is to ensure that it is implemented and it works within the shortest time possible. The pieces of legislation that needs to be undertaken, Parliament should expedite so that it can enable the various aspects of education to function. The reforms that KICD needs to undertake, and we need a very strong leadership and functioning KICD that can deliver all these reforms and all these changes and recommendations within a very short time. They need to be done. But I can say in overall, this is a very progressive report that speaks to the challenges that Kenyans pointed out, that professionals pointed out, and we'll continue analyzing the report with the expert. We'll subject it to expert analysis, and I think the president was properly briefed by the team of professional experts, and he has the insight of how to supervise it. And what we expect is to see the full implementation, and after the implementation, we look at the challenges arising from the implementation of these recommendations.
Let me get Mulu's voice on this, because at the end of the day, Mheshimiwa Sossion says that the legislation bit is now what next, some of the pieces that need to be legislated. But before we come to that, what's your general assessment? It's been long coming. Parents complained that it was so heavy for them. There was lack of preparedness even from the teachers' preparation in terms of how they are going to handle CBC. But all in all, it's now here to stay from the look of things.
Thank you, Oloo. Oloo, let me say that as a leader in this country, CBC has faced a lot of challenges. And one of the reasons CBC was facing challenges is because lack of preparedness in terms of implementation of that curriculum. And with this report now, what I can say, and I will make general observations because I've not read the report. I normally don't like commenting on things which I've not read. What I would say, just general observations. The fact that this team took a bit of time to talk to Kenyans, and more so the key stakeholders, the teachers, the academicians, and all that, was a step in the right direction, because that brought a lot of public participation so that you could hear from those who have been affected. The fact that also the team was able to sit and isolate issues which make sense, which don't make sense, to me is important. And what I would say is just listening to what was being said yesterday when the report was being presented. I see a situation where now we have a curriculum which is Honorable Sossion is saying, and with him he's been in this sector for many, many years. So what he says, I take it very seriously. It's like we have a comprehensive now education system where at the lower level we are able to discuss about the PP1 all the way to, is it to Form 4? Around
grade 9.
The basic. And then the higher education. But what I would want to say is basically, as a country, education is very important, and what we are pushing towards pupils and students must be considered at all levels in a very careful way, so that we don't keep on changing. Like now you see, initially when we started the CBC, I could see they have reduced the number of subjects, so you can imagine our young children will be taken to through those many subjects, and now they are being reduced to 9 or 8. So to me, I think what really we need to do is now, with this report, as a country, we need to see a very well-structured education system. And my concern for now is, many times we come up with a new curriculum and you find we don't prepare adequately. Like now, we know after I think by 2027, the first class will be now getting to the higher education, the ones who are in primary. So we want to see a situation whereby we start preparing early so that when they now start getting the university, we don't see what we have seen with now the junior primary. A situation whereby we knew our pupils will be moving from class 6 to class 7 as June, which is now the start of the junior, and you find most schools have only one teacher. You know, at the level
complained of
at the level of now secondary level, we don't have teachers who teach all the subjects like primary school. You know, primary school, the training is that you can teach every subject.
Yes.
At the secondary level, which is now the junior, you can only teach, I think, a maximum of 2 or 3.
2.
Now, in a situation where you have one teacher teaching about 10 subjects, imagine a teacher teaching history, CRI, biology, chemistry. It just tells you. So to me, what I would be keen on is that with this report now, and important people like Sossion who have been in this sector for long, what we would want to see, like as Kenyans, is to see a situation where, in terms of preparedness, by the time you get to whatever level you get to, we are prepared in terms of infrastructure, in terms of software. Those are matters of teachers, matters of books, so that we don't get to a level where we don't have even the books.
That's why he talks about even the KCD coming up with the...
To me, that's very important. So I'm just saying, let's now look at the implementation matrix, and I would really want to urge the government, the sector now, the education sector, through the CS, that now they start preparing so that we don't have another problem like we're having now, where we have no teachers and all these pupils are in class. That would be my concern, that now let's focus more on implementation so that we get it right at this stage. Yes.
Still on the front page of the People Daily, just to give it a summation, radical plans to reform schools. But also, there's that issue of capitation, which is coming out quite openly, that in view of the realities of CBC, this will be reviewed as follows. Number 1, pre-primary 1,170. In primary, 2,238. Junior school, 15,043. And senior school, that is day, will get 22,527. That is capitation. But generally, what is your point of this?
Special needs?
Sorry?
Special needs?
A special need has not been put here.
It is captured.
Maybe it missed from this paper, but we'll take a look at that as well. But what's your general assessment of the capitation? Because when you even look at the high school, teachers complain that they're not supposed to send students back to home because of school fees, and now the capitation, the new review is here. Your take?
And I think education funding in Kenya, particularly tuition, is agreed it should be fully borne by government. That's a principle that's agreed. And when we were developing the education charter, we looked at the funding, and we agreed this must be revised if we are talking about the delivery of quality education. Look at early childhood. For 13 years since the constitution was implemented, there has been no capitation targeted at early childhood. But now you can see per child, it is starting at 1,170. Yes. And this, the president said, must be implemented, and it shall be implemented. It's not a choice. Giving our children quality education is not an option. The more we enhance funding, then it means we offload the cost from household, and we deliver quality at the school level.
Is this per child or per household?
Per child.
Per child.
This is per child.
Right.
And then 2,238 in primary is actually an upward revision from the current 1,400, and then 15,043 in the junior school. So that they can be prepared properly for the pathways at the senior school, and 22,527 for senior school. And also there is enhanced funding for special need children, those in day and those in boarding, and it's fully funded by government. And also, in addition to that, there is what you call the minimum essential package, MEP. You see, there are schools that cannot function even if you pay the full capitation per learner because of low enrollment. So these schools with low enrollment will receive graduated minimum essential package from ECD, primary, secondary, and it is graduated differently. So the model of funding is supposed to completely eliminate the challenge of operations of schools. And this was negotiated. Remember the charter, we negotiated for 4 months with professionals before the president signed it as a document that would guide education once the president was elected. And now if you look at the education report, most of the recommendations are actually implementations of what is in the charter.
Yes.
So on funding, I think this is a big win for schools. It's a relief for households that at least ECD schools are getting funded for the first time, and there will be functional learning. And even when you look at ECD in terms of human resource, the Teacher Service Commission and county government will work on modalities on how to employ and remunerate those particular teachers. So completely, with this enhanced funding of capitation and properly defined ways of employing teachers at ECD, and even enhanced number of employment of teachers at the basic education level. Remember, as we are speaking now, it is getting to new numbers of 55,000 employment of teachers. As a practitioner in the sector and a leader in the union, I think the highest number of teachers that were ever employed was 23,000 in 2011. That was the highest. But this one of 55,000, that was 2011, yes. But 55,000 now, it's a very high number. And look at this financial shift to the positive side during difficult economic times. I think this is a great step. Kenyans must appreciate, the household must appreciate, and now we'll need proper management of our schools so that we see value for this money reflected in the outcomes of teaching and learning in our learners.
I'll ask you this question, but before then, the Education Ministry will be getting a lot of, will gain more powers from TSC. TSC will be getting some small powers there. Some will be transferred from TSC to the ministry. But Mheshimiwa Makali, what is the legislative process here? Because now the capitation is here. The ministry must now adhere to the new proposal. The president says that it has to be implemented. That is close to his heart. And I'm just want to ask you, what do you think the late Professor Magoha is now feeling? I mean, he was so strong in implementing the CBC posthumously. Maybe
thank you very much. May he so rest in peace. I'm sure wherever he is,
he must be happy.
He must be smiling that at least we are getting things right. But maybe before I come to legislative agenda, let me just very quickly comment on the capitation. Because the issue of capitation is a very important issue in this country. It has really helped a lot of schools in terms of managing the schools. But majority of the principals are saying that with now the increasing prices of commodities and a lot of these other things, that the amount is not enough. There has also been a challenge of leakages. You know, as we do a lot of funding of education sector as members of parliament through the CDF, because we are patrons, and we have realized that despite the money getting to the schools also, at times you don't get as much as you would expect from this money, and we suspect there could be some leakages. So I would want to see a situation where also, despite just releasing the money to schools, there's a more rigorous monitoring of how the resources are being used, so that we get value for money. And then the last thing which I would want really to comment on is the issue of, you know, this capitation. There has been a bit of cheating also through the enrollment levels, where I remember at times you find the school heads and the principals would provide inflated numbers of students so as to get more money. And these are the things we are saying we need to monitor, so that despite us saying the money might not be enough, the money could be enough, but the way it is being used could be having challenges. Now, in terms of legislative agenda, normally what would happen is, once the government now adopt this report, they will be able to isolate what legislation needs to be, what new legislation needs to be put in place, what existing legislation needs to be reviewed or amended, and then based on that, they will be able to send their proposal to the House, either through the majority leader or through the Committee of Education. And on the basis of that, then once we get a hold of that, once Parliament becomes a custodian of those proposals, then now it will get to the parliamentary calendar, where now we'll be able to debate and pass the laws. So the first thing is just to isolate what needs to be done by Parliament.
Yes.
And on the basis of that, come up with a calendar of how they want to push that agenda to our side.
All right.
I can assure you, when we get that agenda to Parliament, parliamentarians will always be ready to support this sector, because this sector is very important to all of us as a country.
Yeah.
So in that case, I don't see Parliament having any challenges legislating once we get the proposals.
Let's take a break and we come back. I just want to ask this question. How are you going to separate the two, the divorce between CDF and the national government's support to the CBC now? Are you as members of Parliament still going to chip in, or you are going to mandate? You're going to deliver all the mandate to the national government from CDF? How is it going to be?
No, normally what happens, CDF only supplements national government efforts.
Yes.
The way we are structured is we can't implement county level functions. So whatever the national government is doing, our work is just to supplement. Through CDF boards, we supplement that. So that's why we need a very good working relationship between the ministry and the members of Parliament and the boards, so that we don't have duplication in terms of what we implement. But in most cases, you find most of the work now at the local level is being done by CDF.
All right.
It's actually CDF, national government, CDF, which is supporting most of the infrastructural development and other requirements of from the schools.
Let's take a break. It's now 7:31. Let's take a break. When you come back, Mheshimiwa Sossion, I just need to ask that question. The Ministry of Education said to gain more powers from TSC. I'd like you to respond to that when you come back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome to the program, and thank you so much for staying with us. Mheshimiwa Sossion, the question I ask you is, the Ministry of Education is going to get more powers from TSC. What does it really pertain to TSC?
No, those powers were unnecessarily taken away from the ministry. When TSC was made a constitutional commission, it assigned itself through the act mandates that are not in the constitution, that are unconstitutional. And we've had conflicts between the ministry and TSC to the extent that teachers receive conflicting instructions at schools. A meeting can be convened by the county director, and then the county director ministry, and the county director TSC instruct teachers not to attend. That is how ugly and dirty it has been. And the functions of the Teacher Service Commission that had been taken from the ministry, like quality assurance, it reverts back to the Ministry of Education fully. And that is a global practice. Every state department of education all over the world has got an independent quality assurance or inspectorate section that is fully funded to quality assure schools or inspect schools. So it cannot be at the employer. So that mandate reverts to the minister. And I want to believe, because I've seen procurement of vehicles for all the sub-county quality assurance officers, so that the quality assurance personnel can work. I've seen the ministry is recruiting additional personnel to the quality assurance and standard department. And the report, the Presidential Work Party report, recommends that the quality assurance and standard at the ministry be strengthened. I think this is a welcome move. It's going to bring normalcy, and is going to create an institution that is going to quality assure all aspects of education, from classroom teaching, from teacher preparations, from curriculum delivery, and even up to management of resources, the leakages we are talking about. Because you see, in the absence of quality assurance and standards operations, then we'll have a laissez-faire and wastage of all these resources that have been put at the ministry. So the safety net of the money that goes to the education sector is the quality assurance and standard. It must be at the Ministry of Education. It must also operate independently at the Ministry of Education, and generates independent, authentic reports that Kenyans can access. Number two, the teacher training and continuous capacity building. Teacher Service Commission had assigned itself that particular role, but that has been taken away from the Teacher Service Commission and domiciled fully at the Ministry of Education, because the ministry must supervise the training, the pre-service training of teachers at the teacher training colleges and universities, and also the in-service capacity building, and the establishment of Kenya School of Teaching, where these continuous capacity building programs will be undertaken and supervised by the Ministry of Education.
Was it so heavy for the TSC to handle?
Baron?
Was it so heavy for the TSC to handle?
It was wrong for TSC to have it. Okay. You cannot be an employer, capacity builder. You can't do everything. So that matter, that role of continuous capacity building rests with the office that deals with the curriculum development. The curriculum development is under the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
And so the curriculum needs are better assessed by the ministry. And when the curriculum needs are assessed and gaps, then the training and retraining should be conducted by the Ministry of Education. And then the other regulatory functions like appeals, disciplinary appeals by teachers, it now shifts from TSC to the Education Appeals Tribunal, which is created by the Education Act. Then promotions and appointment of head teachers, it cannot be done alone by the Teacher Service Commission, because teachers are employees of Teacher Service Commission, but they are working for the Ministry of Education and programs of the ministry. So the ministry must have a say, and of course, traditionally, before the promulgation of the Constitution, the agent of TSC at the counties were actually the personnel of the Ministry of Education. So promotions of teachers shall be done in consultation with the Ministry of Education, which is a professional practice.
Done by the TSC.
The TSC took it away. In fact, what TSC did was to try and assign itself imperial powers that do not exist, and it became rogue. In fact, it has been a rogue entity that has caused a lot of disharmony in the sector, and probably TSC management needs to be revisited further beyond this report, so that there is complete, total harmony in education sector. So ideally speaking, TSC will remain with the human resource functions of employing teachers, promoting teachers, deploying teachers, paying salaries, and there's a lot of work to be done that needs to be upscaled within the human resource entity, and that is actually the role of TSC. So it cannot try to usurp functions of other entities, but it should concern itself with its primary business as an employer in terms of human resource core function of employing, paying salaries, promoting, deploying, transferring. Those are the major business of TSC. But, and once that separation of roles and clarity of roles is defined, then we'll have a more harmonized and orderly education sector with no conflict.
I hear you, sir. Thank you. But Mheshimiwa Makali, based on what Mheshimiwa Sossion is talking about, what's your take?
For me, as I said earlier, you know, Sossion has been in this sector for many, many years.
Yes, so he has A to Z about it. So when
he talks from a position of experience. But I just want to make I really like the idea of streamlining so that the roles are very clear. Because for example, where I come from, that is Kitui Central, we have had some challenges. A teacher is posted to a secondary school. You can see this teacher is killing the school in terms of management, to a level that students are leaving the school because of poor management. You want this teacher transferred, you talk to the county director of education, and he tells you his or her hands are tied, you must go to the TSC. You go to the TSC, they are playing their games, they don't want to transfer the teacher. You want to bring the director of TSC and the county director of education to a round table to discuss the matter. They don't see eye to eye. So to me, I think this idea of streamlining the roles, I like it very much. And it's something I would want to support, so that we have a clear policy whereby, if it's a matter of management of schools, and you see a teacher is not performing as per expectation, then you can easily, the county director of education can actually give instructions or TS, whichever way it is being done.
Because that's a distinct role.
Yeah, because it's a distinct role, so that the teachers trust. But there's a lot of confusion. Even getting a teacher out of our school, and you can see there are problems. You find up to a level, at times as politicians, we tend to be forced by circumstances, even to start now inciting the parents to close the school or effect their teacher. Which is, so what Sossion is saying makes a lot of sense. Let's have a system whereby each role is clearly defined, and the person responsible for that role is, so that TSC play on their side, and then the ministry plays on their side, but at the same time then ensure that then there are synergies in terms of they are working as a team for purposes of pushing the education sector forward. This is an area I really want to support, so that we get it clear. It will help our schools and also help management. Yeah. Yes.
Because when you look at, one of the recommendations is about the infrastructure.
Yes.
That the report also recommends, even for the Ministry of Education, that in 2 years they should renovate the existing structures, or if possible, build more infrastructure, because that is where the missing link is.
Yes.
When you talk about infrastructure, we talk about schools, we talk about computers, well-equipped.
Classrooms and
all that.
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at a situation where this might actually derail or slow the pace of implementation. Yes. What do you make of that?
No, this is what we were saying earlier. You know, like now, like what I was saying with the CBC. You know very clearly you require some classrooms, and then you just sit and wait till the students are in school. There are no classrooms. But one thing we must really say, Energy CDF has really helped. Actually, most of the renovation, most of the new classrooms all over the country been done through Energy CDF. And that's what we are saying. If there is a very well structured way of implementing together with the ministry, CDF and ministry, we can easily achieve some of these things. But you know, the other thing has also been the challenge of financing. You know, we do allocate money for infrastructural development every year, and there's been an issue of equity. The way the money is being shared across the country.
Yes.
You find that even though the money is budgeted for, at times there is skewness in terms of the way the money is being used. And that's what we are saying now. We need a situation whereby, based on the need, you know, if you look at, if you analyze the country, and you go to most of the counties and the sub-counties, you realize some sub-counties are so much disadvantaged as compared to others.
Yes.
I will give you a very simple example. Like now, if you look at the teachers who have been posted to some counties, if you look at the analysis, you find counties like Kitui, counties like Kagameka, counties like the northern counties, they have huge shortages of teachers. And you realize even when teachers have been employed, they are not likely to get the proportionate share in terms of the shortage as opposed to the recruitment.
Yes.
This is what we are saying. As a country, we need to make sure that, because a pupil studying in Garissa will do the same exam with the people studying in Nairobi. So as a country, we must make efforts to make sure that in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of teacher postings, there's a bit of equity, even if not really, they are not equal, but a bit of equity, a share of equity, so that there is a proportionate sharing of the resources which are available, so that we don't have disadvantage some of the students and pupils in this country. So to me, really, the issue of infrastructure development, we need to see more resources being pumped to the ministry, and then the ministry must be seen to be sharing these resources fairly, so that all the parts of this country are developed, and not some parts having all the facilities and other parts having almost 10% of the required facilities.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mr. Sossion, the question I wanted to ask you then, don't you think it's going to be some silent war between TSC and the Ministry of Education? And is TSC well equipped to undertake the processes or the mandate given now solely, now that distinction of roles?
Now, before I answer that, there was a matter raised by, which I think is important, by Makali.
Yes.
Mulu. If a school has been run down, what is the procedure of giving it the correct professional treatment? The quality assurance and standards of the ministry shall conduct an assessment of the school. And if it recommends that administrative change be caused in the school, so it shall be done. It will not be an option. And so with this recommendation of clear roles now, then there will be no issue of using parents to evict anybody. The reports alone will cause that change. And even as unionists and as a unionist, whenever we note such things, we would always recommend transfer or change of administration. So I think this is now sorted out. And then number two, in terms of infrastructure, which you've talked about,
yes.
Of course, we'll need quality infrastructure to deliver quality education. We'll need quality teaching and learning tools. We've seen the innovation of children using sacks and using improvised brooms from branches to do some work, teaching and learning. Of course, that is a poor state of using poor, low-quality teaching and learning tools. And of course, we need quality teachers. Those are three variables to deliver quality education. And the CDF has done a lot to overhaul the infrastructure. Your statement on improving infrastructure in the next 2 years cannot go without support. And probably the more CDF needs to be channeled, particularly to renovate classrooms, to be decent, and to put up new classrooms where they are needed. And if need be, more funding to CDF by the national government can be enhanced. Because through the supervision of members of parliament, and you know, most of the classrooms that we are getting right across the country are from CDF. And since CDF was started in 2013, it has done a lot in advancing the quality of infrastructure in schools. So this report is not going to succeed without the support of members of parliament and without the support of CDF. So I'm appealing to members of parliament through Makali, Mulu, and all of them, wherever they are, to also support this particular report and support particularly mounting of quality learning infrastructure and quality learning tools. Let us not allow our children to conduct their learning using poor tools, poor learning tools. Let them have decent quality teaching and learning tools and quality learning environment. And I believe that is what the interaction between capitation and the interaction between capitation through the students, the CDF money, and other alternative funding, even from county government. Nothing stops the county government from also participating in building of classrooms. So all these funds should interact to give us quality schools and to give us quality outcomes.
Members of parliament have a lot of work to do.
Education. No, of course, the CDF majorly is for education. That Makali can tell you. So that means members of parliament now have a lot of role, a lot of work to do in education. And I'm advocating that the Treasury allocates more money to CDF so that this work is done. Yes. Okay. It is a collective venture. Education is a collective venture. It cannot be done in isolation by the ministry or by TSC or by the boards of management. It's collective, including even county government. And then your question on efficiency of TSC, whether it's going to get weak. I don't think we are here to promote egoism of institutions. The institutions belong to the people of Kenya, and they must be accountable in the services to the people of Kenya. And these recommendations have been made by the people of Kenya through the Presidential Working Party. So if the people of Kenya have recommended a manner in which these entities should relate, and of course, the Teacher Service Commission is not an institution above the Ministry of Education. It cannot be. No, it is not. The ministry is a parent organ leading education. Of course, with the leader as a minister. That is a common order everywhere in the Commonwealth and the world over. So I think we are correcting what was created wrongly after the 2010 Constitution by TSC assigning itself unnecessary power. So it has to be recalibrated back to what it has to do to ensure that it delivers efficient human resource services to the teacher. That's the business of TSC. And then the ministry superintends the programs, implementation of curriculum, supervision of curriculum, as is required, together with the existing SAGAs, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. All what we need is harmony. It is what is important to deliver education is what we call unity. You know, in education, there is no division. That is an entity which unites all households in Kenya.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is where there are no politics, there is no position of government. Yeah. All the children from all the households converge in schools.
Yes.
And it behoves, and it is moral, that everybody gives the best, because that is the home of our children during the day.
Thank you, sir.
And our children must be happy during the day. And so the interacting, the entities, all the entities within the education sector must work seamlessly, in harmony, and without undermining each other. You know, if we got to a point where a chief executive of the Teacher Service Commission feels that is above the minister and cannot even pick the phone calls of the minister. Now, you can imagine the kind of upsetting of... you can imagine the kind of upsetting of the chain of command in the sector. And that is very dangerous. Yeah, and I'm happy
I'll come back to
this has been corrected diplomatically and professionally.
That's the
in this
question
report.
I asked, where there's going to be a silent tip between TSC and...
There will be no war, because the report here has been generated by a task force that brings together all the institutions. And this has been adopted and it is supervised by the president.
Thank you.
The president is not going to supervise.
And he said he's going
a government entity the president is not going to lead a government that is fighting within itself. That is not the intention of government. Government cannot fight with itself.
It can't. Let me ask you this question, because it's very important. The university funding, the colleges, and some of the courses that the recommendation has in the report, you know, the certificate and diploma courses now will not be taught in universities, that the current diplomas and certificates should be done in a span of 2 to 3 years, and then now it reverts back to colleges, because this, they realized, was weakening colleges. All right? But then, Mheshimiwa Makali, what's your take on what Mheshimiwa Sossion is saying? I ask a question, and from the look of things, you must be having a lot of work right now in the next phase of 2 years to implement CDF. I mean, all your energies as members of parliament are going to be focused
in schools.
Exactly, on improving schools, infrastructure, in collaboration with the national government and the county government.
No, I totally agree. Actually, if you look at the way we use the CDF money, the national government CDF money, almost 70% of that funding goes to education sector. So it's just like another extension of the means of education in terms of the way the resources are being used. And it is obvious that there are two ways we are saying it. We have our allocation, which comes through the Ministry of Planning to CDF, and that keeps on increasing every year because it's a percentage of the national revenue collection. But we are also saying, because this model, the CDF model of implementation, has proved to be very effective in this country, we would also want to see a situation where then the ministry could be channeling some of the money allocated to the ministry through CDF, so that we use the same model for implementation. It is very effective in terms of cost efficiency. It is very effective in terms of time. We take very little time to implement, a very short time to implement. It's also very effective in terms of administrative expenses. You spend very little in terms of, if you look at the whole of the CDF fund, it's only 6% which goes to administrative issues. The rest goes to programs and projects. But then, so we are saying basically, if as a country we committed ourselves to providing this infrastructure and we provide additional resources, we should be able to implement. For example, this year now, the education sector alone has taken about 628 billion out of the budget. It was there, it's about 25% of the budget went to education sector.
29%.
So, just quite a huge percent. So we are saying, if now we improved that amount, and also a lot of the money goes to the current, but push more of the money to the development, then we'll be helping the country in terms of getting this quality infrastructure for quality education. We'll be able to get that. But from your question about the diploma and the universities, you know, the thing is, I think it was a mistake for us to make our middle level colleges to become universities, because what we did, you know, we killed all of them and made them campuses of universities. By doing so, we actually killed the middle level skills where we would want in this country.
Yes.
So if you look at the diploma now, universities started offering diplomas, universities started offering certificates. It is a shame to see our whole university during our graduation day calling people to receive certificates as part of the graduation. You know, to me, these are things you can do at what you are saying at the middle level colleges, the TTIs, the teachers colleges, so that we have a mass of, because even by, I think from a human resource perspective, if you have an engineer can be served by about 2 or 3 diploma level people, but you can't have 3 engineers serving the same position. So we need a structure which is, as you move from the top, you go down getting more people. But you know, we killed that middle level. So to me, the proposal to have all our diplomas and the certificates being offered at the middle level colleges is a very good proposal, and we need to implement it immediately.
And actually, even some of the reports, Mheshimiwa Makali, is that some of the colleges did not even receive even a single, I mean, no student actually applied to attend to any of these schools.
Yes, that's
some of
true.
these colleges.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Sossion, do you think that's now the right way to go? Because universities now are going to be decongested, and some of these middle-level colleges are going to be, like for example, TVETs, and call them diploma and certificate courses are now going to get market.
There's been confusion in tertiary institutions.
Right.
And poor funding models. And in fact, the biggest threat to education is not even CBC at the basic level. It is proper order at the tertiary level. We killed the mid-level institutions by engaging in quick decisions of elevating mid-level institutions to universities. And I think the recommendation now that all the certificates and diplomas be exited from universities is a wise thing, so that it can be offered at the mid-level entities and TVET institutions, so that universities can concentrate on its core mandate of offering degree programs, focus on engaging in research, quality research. In fact, this is where we've lost. The research programs in the universities has gone down, and funding for research has also gone down. And also, the third mandate is community development.
Right.
So the university should concentrate on its core mandate. And if you look at the funding model that has been adopted for universities, it is going to ensure that scholarships cover the poorest households through the testing system that HELP will be able to use to map out, and it's going to cover about 45,000 students. You've seen what COOPS has done, and but by and large, the funding of universities will move up from the current 54 billion to 84 billion. And talking to a number of vice chancellors who have seen the admission of their students, they are satisfied that with the capitation and with the funding, they will now be able to operate and function. That is the most immediate indicator. And actually this change in the funding model is in the education charter. Now then you come down to TVETs. The TVETs must deliver. It must give us the skilled manpower
they have the platform
that we require. And the TVET's presence must be present in every constituency in the country. Because when you look at the admission of students through COOPS, those who have been admitted are only around 285,000 out of 800,000. So where are the 600,000? And I think this is a big discussion we should be discussing. This number of students who are unaccounted for should be accounted for. These are the students who are expected to take the certificate and diploma courses. And when you put these certificates and diploma courses in the universities, they'll become hard to reach. But if these diploma and certificate courses are available at mid-level training colleges like TVETs, which can be available in every constituency, and every constituency, then it will be possible to mount these particular courses for this cohort of students of around 600,000.
Yeah.
And in conclusion, we've talked of transition, 100% transition from primary
secondary
to secondary.
Right.
We've talked of non-repetition of learners. Repeating learners is not a professional practice. Learners should progress and they should be taught effectively so that they have capacity to move to the next level.
All right.
We are not talking about transition from Form 4 to tertiary. Transition from Form 4 to tertiary should be at 100%. Because when we look at a candidature of 800,000, that is potential human capital that we can skill and tool to fit in any economy, locally and externally. And one of the key agendas of Kenya Kwanza is to export our human resource to the diaspora. Diaspora is one of our main focus. We cannot do it when we have these huge 600,000 unaccounted for and planned for.
Thank you.
And therefore, these courses must be taken out of universities. We allow the mid-level colleges to thrive, to give us the skills that the universities cannot give us.
Okay, thank you.
The universities cannot give us the skills at the diploma and certificate level effectively as it would. So I think there is now order at the tertiary level, and this is where I invite now members of parliament and all of us now.
I need to go. I need to go. And let Mheshimiwa Makali to go somewhere as well. Mheshimiwa Makali, just to respond on that as well, I don't know, do you have any TVET in your constituency? If not, are you planning to have one or two now that you have an opportunity as you respond?
Actually, we have upgraded one of our polytechnics to a TTI.
Great.
We are now doing the infrastructure, and I can tell you this is the way to go. I've also committed myself as a leader in the area to support students who will go to that TTI, so that we're using CDF resources, we'll be able to pay part of their fees to the tuition, so that we have many more joining. But that is the way to go if you really want to grow this economy. TVET is the way to go, and if you go even to developed countries like German, that's how they have developed, by making sure that they support TVETs, and in that way then you have a very huge human resource group which you can use. And but to me, the funding model which is not being proposed is a good model. It's good to come out very well in terms of targeting the right student in terms of funding. But there's something which Sossion has mentioned, and which I think really this will be by now take away. The issue of wastage. Our education system is coming up with a lot of wastage, and that's why you see, like Sossion is saying, I wish we would get a situation where we transition everybody from Form 4 100% either to tertiary or universities. But now when you look at the figures which were projected yesterday on our screens, very many students are just disappearing after Form 4. You don't know where they will go. I think that's something we need to focus on, and I wish I would want to look at the report to see whether they have taken care of that, so that we don't have students who are just after Form 4, they disappear, we don't know where they go. And to make things worse, it appeared like there were more than 50%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Makali Mulu, Member of Parliament, Kitui Central, Wilson Sossion, former NAT Secretary General and CAS. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for showing up. But Director is on the floor. I don't want to be given a riot act to be given a written explanation why going past my allocated time. I'm a timekeeper.
Tell the Director to expand space of discussion on the most serious
things. We need a written explanation to that.
And the President is leading by demanding written explanation.
Thank you for joining us. All right. Thank you for
thank you very much. Thank you, Oloo.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Yes.